To achieve personal development and better productivity, you have to set goals. Hi, I'm Joshua
And I'm Takara.
from Magnificent You.
Indeed. So, one of the things when it comes to goal setting that you want to pay attention to is you don't want to just set goals in one area of your life. You want a more balanced life. You want a harmony within all areas of your life. So you need to look at each of the areas separately and set goals in them. Now, once you have set goals in different areas of your life, you can then prioritize them. So if you're really strapped for cash, obviously you'll make that a high priority, right? But you don't want to do that at the expense of ignoring your health, your, needing to exercise, eating better, that sort of thing. So you want to be paying attention to all of them. So something that I like to use when I'm making my own goals, but also teaching other people, that is what's called the Bagua. It's a Chinese system for life balance, right? And so there's all these different areas. So what you probably want to do right now is get a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, and then you might want to start pausing the video so that you can write all of these down, okay? But these are different areas. You can choose all of them or choose a few of them or come up with your own. There's no...
Yeah, this is just a framework you can use. This is not the definitive, these
Right.
are the aspects of your life. It's like, no, this is the way of thought these guys have come up with.
Right, and it's a place to start,
Exactly.
right? Choose what works throughout the rest. Like, that's always my motto, okay? But it begins with family, and family can be, your parents, your extended family, all of those things. Finances, obviously, that's important for all of us. Fame and reputation, they have as a whole separate entity, okay? Very important if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, you own a small business, right? You've got to have some notoriety. Love and partnerships, whether that's marriage or romantic, whatever that looks like in your life, it's an area to consider. And then children and creativity, which is also about legacy and leaving something for the future. And then, let's see what's next. We have community and friendships. They call it helpful people, but I like to use the word community. Are you part of some groups? Do you have friendships that are happening? Because they add a whole layer to your life that isn't there if you don't have friendships, right? Then there's your career, separate from your finances.
And separate from fame.
Right, right. So your career is where is it you want to head in some sort of role. And also then there's knowledge and personal growth. You got to pay attention to you. You have to continuously learn and grow and evolve as a person. And then also in the middle of all that, we have health and balance. Because, like I said, you can't ignore yourself in order to achieve all that.
Yeah,
Okay?
and they have some serious fitness culture over there, so they take that center bit very seriously.
Very
as well.
seriously, very seriously,
Sure.
right. So once you look at all those areas and you think about setting goals in them, you want to make them measurable. You want to have specific measurable goals in each of those areas, okay? Now, I've been teaching this goal setting and goal achievement thing for many, many years. And I was working with this one particular group of women, and it was almost like herding cats. Okay, they were most of them were quite successful and already fairly well known, and so I was younger than most of them. And anyway, it was an interesting dynamic between us. But I suggested that they all pick a single goal for this particular course, what we were trying to accomplish, and it needed to be measurable, so that you knew whether you achieved it or didn't achieve it. You could look at that thing and know for sure if you hit the goal or didn't hit the goal. So it doesn't need to be some nebulous idea or concept. It needs to be, I want to wear size 6, or I want to wear, whatever it is, right? I want this much money in my bank, or I want to be able to go on that trip to whatever that costs this much. Whatever the goal is, right? So looking at the goals of each of the people, half the room chose a measurable goal. Half the room chose these concepts, and I kept talking to him about it. And that was what they chose. They chose, they want to grow and evolve, or whatever these concepts were, right? So what do you think happened by the end of the class? by the end of the class, the people that had measurable goals, all of them had achieved their goals. And the people that had these nebulous conceptual type of ideas, there's no way to measure it anyway, but none of them had actually moved forward. They hadn't really made any strides toward anything, really. And that was just a very tangible, in front of my face, experience working with a whole group of women. It's like, definitely you want it to be measurable.
Yeah, you can't set the goal for, I want to become fitter.
Yes.
Because that's not a goal that you can pursue, but I want to run that marathon coming up in 8 months.
Right.
You know that you need to train in order to be able to run that marathon in 8 months, or
Right.
however long that would be. So
Or-
that's much more
Yeah.
an actual goal that you can pursue. That's
Right.
why it's so important that it's tangible.
Right.
If it's not tangible, you can't pursue it at all.
Exactly. And speaking of fitness again, another thing that rather than having like you want to do a marathon or something, which for a lot of people is just like so beyond their even ability to conceive that they might ever do that. It can be like, I go to the gym and I can only ride the exercise bike for 5 minutes. Right?
That's also, yeah.
I want to be able to ride comfortably without thinking I need to go to the hospital,
Right.
right? Say 15 minutes, say 20 minutes, say 30 minutes, right? These are tangible goals that you can work toward. And that's what we mean. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about setting specific goals. Okay.
So now that you know how to set a specific goal, there are different frameworks you can use in order to set those goals. So one of the big ones is setting a long-term goal that would be like a decade out. What do you want your life to look like in each of those areas
Right.
in a decade?
Right.
And then you would, best practice, write it out, and think about it. And then from there, you would reverse engineer, okay, 5 years from now, what does it look like? 3 years from now, 1 year, 6 months out, 3 months out. What's the thing that I can complete in 3 months that will be projecting me toward that 10-year goal? Now, there are people like Jocko Willink who simply cannot do that method. They live in kind of the moment where it's like, okay, if this thing is working, then I'm going to continue pursuing it, and if it doesn't, I'm going to shift gears and do something else. So if the long-term goals work for you, then fantastic, because they're the people that they work for, it can get a lot done. If it doesn't work for you, then worry more about the, 3-month goal, 6-month goal, and just don't bother with the rest of the stuff.
Right. But here's the thing about goal setting. It takes a lot of time and effort. You got to really sit down. I mean, I heard one story that Tony Robbins, who was, I believe at one point living in a car, okay, not his reality now at all, right? But he was on a cross-country train ride. I heard this story years ago, so don't, if I'm getting this all wrong, then sorry. But he was on this long distance train ride, days and days from one coast to the other. And he took that whole time, 2-3 days, to do nothing but figure out the future that he wanted for himself. Right?
And he's become, one of the most successful names in this very space.
Indeed, indeed.
And that was because of those goals that he set for himself.
Exactly. So it's important. And if you have them, you're more likely to hit them versus if you don't have them,
There's nothing you can hit.
You're not going to hit anything, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Now that you know what types of goals that you're going to be setting and how to set them, how fantastic will it feel once you achieve them? Because you made it this far into the video, we know that you'll love our future ones just as much. So go ahead and leave a like on this one and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or goal-setting tools that you've used successfully, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below.
Until next time.